There, everybody. We're back. I am once again reading The 12 Caesars by Suetonius. Last time I did 16 through 20, that's paragraphs. And when we ended off, Caesar had power finally, and he was dominating the Senate, much to their regret. And we ended it, I think, on the note where he may have poisoned someone who put in a complaint against him. So okay, cool. Our guy still wants power. He's trying to get it. He's trying to be Alexander the Great. So today we're going to start with paragraph 21 and see how far we get. Maybe do 5 paragraphs. It depends on how long they are because, again, I've never read this. I don't jump ahead. I just read it, take it how I see it, and I don't assume it's all true because ancient writers tended to be a little iffy on certain things, accurate here, making stuff up over there. But I just read it and hopefully we'll enjoy it and we'll experience something new from the past. So, paragraph 21 of the 12 Caesars. About the same time he married Calpurnia, the daughter of Lucius Piso, who was to succeed him in the consulship, and gave his own daughter Julia to Cnaeus Pompey. Rejecting Servilius Capio, to whom she had been contracted, and by whose means chiefly he had but a little before baffled Bibulus. After this new alliance, he began, upon any debates in the Senate, to ask Pompey's opinion first, whereas he used before to give that distinction to Marcus Crassus, and it was the usual practice for the consul to observe throughout the year the method of consulting the Senate, which he had adopted on the calends of January. Okay, I don't want to jump the gun, but maybe Marcus Crassus is no longer in Julius's favor? Hmm. Paragraph 22. Being therefore now supported by the interest of his father in law and son in law, of all the provinces he made choice of Gaul, as most likely to furnish him with matter and occasion for triumphs. At first, indeed, he received only Cisalpine Gaul, with the addition of Illyricum, by a decree proposed by Vatinius to the people, but soon afterwards obtained from the Senate Gallia Comata, also the senators being apprehensive that if they should refuse it him, that province also would be granted him by the people. Elated now with his success, he could not refrain from boasting, a few days afterwards, in a full Senate house, that he had, in spite of his enemies and to their great mortification, obtained all he desired, and that for the future he would make them to their shame, submissive to his pleasure. One of the senators observing sarcastically, "That will not be very easy for a woman to do," he jocosely replied. Semiramis formerly reigned in Assyria, and the Amazons possess great part of Asia. Okay, so there's some clapback, but apparently Caesar is still gaining ground. Nothing stops our guy. Nothing. He just keeps rolling forward. Uh, Accusations of poisoning, murdering, conspiring against the Senate. Nothing stops this guy. Half kind of convinced that if even some of this is true, that he was destined for greatness and fated to do great things, or at least to cause a whole lot of upstir. But paragraph 23. When the term of his consulship had expired, upon a motion being made in the Senate by Caius Memmius and Lucius Domitius, the praetors, respecting the transactions of the year past, he offered to refer himself to the House. But they declining the business, after 3 days spent in vain altercation, he set out for his province. Immediately, however, his quaestor was charged with several misdemeanors, for the purpose of implicating Caesar himself. Indeed, an accusation was soon after preferred against him by Lucius Antistius, tribune of the people, but by making an appeal to the tribune's colleagues, he succeeded in having the prosecution suspended during his absence in the service of the state. To secure himself, therefore, for the time to come, he was particularly careful to secure the goodwill of the magistrates at the annual elections, assisting none of the candidates with his interest, nor suffering any persons to be advanced to any office who would not positively undertake to defend him in his absence, for which purpose he made no scruple to require of some of them an oath, and even a written obligation. Right, so, uh, self-serving. But that's not a surprise. I mean, Julius Caesar just to me seems like a politician. I mean, other people talk about this great military commander, and I'm sure he was. There's no doubt he went out and conquered literally in battle. Um, but this clearly just lays him out as a politician. And not only is he self serving, almost everybody around him is. Everybody's accused of some sort of crime. It's like paragraph for paragraph. And it's, to me, it goes a lot in line with what we think and know of politicians even now, 2,000 years later. Paragraph 24. But when Lucius Domitius became a candidate for the consulship and openly threatened that, upon his being elected consul, he would effect that which he could not accomplish when he was praetor, and divest himself of the command of the armies, he sent for Crassus and Pompey to Lucca, a city in his province, and pressed them, for the purpose of disappointing Domitius, to sue again for the consulship and to continue him in his command for 5 years longer, with both which requisitions they complied. Presumptuous now from his success, he added at his own private charge more allegiance to those which he had received from the republic, among the former of which was one levied in Transalpine Gaul, and called by a Gallic name, Alauda, which he trained and armed in the Roman fashion, and afterwards conferred on it and called by a Gallic and the freedom of the city. From this period he declined no occasion of war, however unjust and dangerous, attacking without any provocation as well the allies of Rome as the barbarous nations which were its enemies, insomuch that the Senate passed a decree for sending commissioners to examine into the condition of Gaul, and some members even proposed that he should be delivered up to the enemy. But so great had been the success of his enterprises that he had the honor of obtaining more days of supplication, and those more frequently, than had ever before been decreed to any commander. So I'm going to assume, and I always hold out, I could probably be wrong. Again, I'm not a scholar. Um, I'm a student of Latin and just this year of ancient Greek. So I'm reading this for the first time. I'm assuming this is when he's at Gaul. The time we hear about him as a great military commander when he goes up to Gaul and conquers the Celts. I didn't know if this is contemporaneous with that. That at the same time, the Senate trying to find some way to get him to be handed over to the Gauls. I mean, okay. I mean, where's the Game of Thrones TV show for this? I'll ask again. We'll make 25 the last one for this video. We'll see what happens and where we end up. During 9 years in which he held the government of the province, his achievements were as follows. He reduced all Gaul, bounded by the Pyrenean forest, the Alps, Mount Gabena, and the two rivers, the Rhine and the Rhone, and being about 3,200 miles in compass, into the form of a province, excepting only the nations in alliance with the Republic, and such as had merited his favor, imposing upon this new acquisition an annual tribute of 40 millions of sesterces. He was the first of the Romans who, crossing the Rhine by a bridge, attacked the Germanic tribes inhabiting the country beyond that river, whom he defeated in several engagements. He also invaded the Britons, a people formerly unknown, and having vanquished them, exacted from them contributions and hostages. Amidst such a series of successes, he experienced thrice only any signal disaster. Once in Britain, when his fleet was nearly wrecked in a storm. In Gaul at Gergovia, where one of his legions was put to the rout. And in the territory of the Germans, his lieutenants Titurius and Aurunculeus were cut off by an ambuscade. Okay. That sounds like that's that period. When he conquered the Gauls, because he went over the Rhine. I remember that when I was a kid. He crossed the Rhine, fought the Gauls. He went into England. He did all that. He conquered everything. Uh, but I didn't know it was 9 years. That was 9 years long. That's a lot of time. That's a lot of time for soap opera. That's a lot of time for intrigue. That's a lot of time for things to happen. Again, that would make a great show. Without making so-called historical shows about ancient Rome and stuff that just is based on made-up things or things that never happened. This would be great. So that's 21 through 25, the paragraphs of the 12 Caesars. We're now at that point I was always told about Caesar conquering great military campaign. This, I think, is some of the part where he wrote in his own book, which I'll have to get to one day. But that's where we are. I really enjoyed that. The intrigue is still insane in Rome. I can't even express it enough, but yeah, I really like those paragraphs. And I can't wait to read some more. Again, I'll drop some shorts in the next week or two about various people and events that were in those paragraphs. So stay tuned. If you have any thoughts or anything you want to add, feel free to leave something in the comments. And I'll see y'all next time.